The boardroom buzzed with a thick tension that you could slice through with a knife. 11 high-profile lawyers sat around the massive oak table, flipping through binders and scribbling furiously into notepads. At the head of the table sat Malcolm Reeves, tech tycoon, billionaire investor, and the founder of Novacore Technologies, a billion-dollar startup now hanging by a legal thread. Malcolm stared blankly at the mountain of papers in front of him. His once glittering eyes were dulled by weeks of sleepless nights and anxiety. He'd built Novacore from the ground up, working out of his garage with nothing but a dream and a second-hand laptop. And now, because of a hidden clause in a decades-old contract, he was about to lose everything to a corporate predator. "This makes no sense," he muttered, running his hands through his disheveled salt and pepper hair. "There's got to be a way out." One of the lawyers, Garrett Blackwell, partner at the most expensive firm in Manhattan, spoke up. "We've reviewed every clause. It's airtight. If this clause activates, they own 51% of your shares. They'll take control of Novacore." "I'm sorry, Mr. Reeves. We've exhausted every possible defense." Malcolm leaned back in his chair, defeated. The room fell silent. And then, a gentle clink. A paperclip dropped to the floor. Everyone turned toward the soft rustle of a mop being pushed across the marble tiles. Maria Lopez, the evening cleaner, had been quietly sweeping the corner of the boardroom. She was in her late 50s, her back slightly hunched from years of labor, her hands worn from scrubbing floors and windows. She was invisible to most who worked in this towering skyscraper. Except today, she had been listening. "Excuse me, sir," she said gently, her voice carrying a mix of humility and curiosity. "May I say something?" 11 heads turned in slow disbelief. Malcolm blinked at her. I'm sorry." Maria stepped forward, gripping the handle of her mop tightly. "I didn't mean to eavesdrop. But I overheard you talking about a clause in an old contract. You said it was from 1996. The lawyers exchanged irritated glances. "Ma'am," Garrett began, "this is illegal." Malcolm raised his hand, silencing him. He looked at Maria with quiet curiosity. "Yes. It's an acquisition clause from 1996. Why?" She took a step closer. "Do you happen to know the filing date?" Malcolm frowned. "April 12, 1996. Maria's eyes lit up. "That's the year the digital formatting laws were revised for contract authenticity. I remember because my late husband was a clerk at the county records office. He used to say that contracts before May 1996 needed dual authentication to be enforceable unless explicitly certified." Silence. Garrett raised an eyebrow. "She's actually right." Another lawyer flipped furiously through his binder. Wait, the clause is only authenticated once. There's no second validation. If this contract falls under that policy, it could be legally void." Malcolm stood up so fast his chair toppled backward. "Are you telling me this billion-dollar trap might be a bluff because of an overlooked legal technicality?" Maria nodded slowly. "Only if the clause wasn't updated after May 1, 1996. You should check the original filing." The room erupted into controlled chaos. Lawyers scrambled for laptops, calling paralegals, pulling up archived documents. 20 minutes later, Garrett turned around, breathless. "She's right. It was filed before the deadline. Single authenticated. It's not enforceable under the revised legal framework. They can't touch your shares." Malcolm froze. His mouth opened, but no sound came. He slowly turned to face Maria, eyes shimmering with disbelief. "You just saved my company." Maria flushed red. "I just remembered something my husband used to say. That's all." "No, Maria," Malcolm said, voice shaking. "That wasn't just something. That was everything." That evening, Maria walked home in her usual quiet way. Her small apartment in Queens was modest, filled with family photos, homemade curtains, and the scent of fresh lavender she kept on her windowsill. Her son, Matteo, greeted her at the door. "How was work, Mama?" he asked, placing her worn shoes by the doormat. She smiled. "Different." Over a dinner of arroz con pollo, Maria shared what had happened. Matteo, a community college student studying law, sat in awe. "They're lucky you were there," he said. "You saved a company." "I didn't save anything, Mijo. I just paid attention. That's all." But deep down, Maria knew something had shifted. 3 days later, Maria was summoned to the executive floor, an area she had only ever entered to clean. Dressed in her usual work clothes, she felt awkward stepping into the same boardroom. This time, it was empty except for Malcolm. He stood by the window, looking out over the city. As she entered, he turned and smiled. "Maria, come in." She hesitated. "I hope I didn't overstep last time." "You saved Novacor," he interrupted. "And you taught every one of those lawyers a lesson in humility." She gave a modest shrug. "I just shared what I knew." He walked over, handed her an envelope. She opened it slowly. Her hands trembled. Inside was a check. Her eyes widened. $200,000. "That's a starting bonus," he said. "For what?" "For your new position. Head of Records Insight and Compliance." Maria gasped. "I spoke to HR. We'll provide full legal training and education support. You clearly have the instincts, the knowledge. You shouldn't be pushing a mop, you should be pushing boundaries." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "But I'm just a cleaning lady," she whispered. Malcolm stepped forward. "Not anymore. You're proof that brilliance can come from anywhere. That knowledge and humility are not limited by job titles. You saved more than a company. You reminded us all of the value in listening to everyone in the room." Months passed. Maria began her training at Novacor, attending classes during the day and shadowing the legal team by evening. She soaked up knowledge like a sponge, earning the respect of those who once looked past her. Matteo watched his mother transform. Inspired, he pushed harder in his own studies. One evening, he surprised her with news: he had been accepted into Columbia Law. They cried together, holding each other in the tiny kitchen where dreams had once felt far away. 6 months later, Maria Lopez stood on a TEDx stage. Dressed in a smart navy blazer, she spoke confidently to a packed hall. "I was once the woman nobody noticed. The one who swept your floors and emptied your bins. But I always listened, always learned. The moment I was given a voice, I used it, and it changed everything." The audience rose in thunderous applause. Cameras flashed. Among the crowd, Malcolm smiled from the front row. She ended with a final message. Never underestimate anyone based on their job. Because sometimes, the one holding the mop holds the missing piece of the puzzle. And with that, Maria became not only a symbol of Novacor's rebirth, but a global inspiration, a reminder that kindness, humility, and quiet wisdom can change the course of giants. Greatness often hides in the most unassuming souls. All it takes is for someone to listen. The janitor, the cleaner, the clerk, they all carry untold stories. And sometimes, the world changes not with noise, but with the soft, certain voice of someone who dares to speak up when it matters most.